You wake on Divine Mercy Sunday, and something feels different in the air, something indescribable yet unmistakable, as if heaven itself has drawn a little closer to earth. The morning light seems softer, not weaker, but tender, as though it carries a message meant only for those who are willing to listen. You go about your morning routine, making coffee, opening curtains, checking on the quiet corners of your home, yet somewhere deep inside you feel a tug, a gentle stirring, a whispering reminder that today is not like other days. Today the gates of mercy stand wide open in a way they do on no other day of the year. And though you may feel ordinary, though your life may seem tangled in routines, frustrations, or the quiet battles no one else sees, heaven is waiting for you, not tomorrow, not next week, but at exactly 3 p.m. Saint Faustina knew this moment better than anyone. She felt its weight, its beauty, its urgency. In her small convent cell in Krakow, she heard Christ's request, no, his plea, that the world pause at that hour, the hour of his death, the hour of mercy pouring forth from his pierced heart like an endless waterfall of grace. The apostles witnessed the crucifixion. Mary stood beneath the cross, but Faustina was the one chosen to bring its deepest mystery into our century, into your home, into your living room, into the mess and beauty of your ordinary life. And perhaps you too have felt that longing she often described, a desire to break the boundaries between heaven and earth, to feel God not only in church, but in the quiet chaos of your home, your thoughts, your responsibilities, your fears. Faustina understood that holiness is not reserved for convents or monasteries. It is born in the willingness of an ordinary soul to respond to an extraordinary invitation. And today, that invitation has come to you. Imagine Faustina standing in your hallway now, dressed in her simple black habit, her face serene yet burning with purpose. She would tell you that Divine Mercy Sunday is not merely a feast. It is a rescue mission from heaven. And she would tell you that at 3 p.m., the hour of great mercy, the world enters a window of grace, unlike anything else in human history. Jesus told her, "At that hour, I will refuse nothing to the soul that makes a request of me through the merits of my passion." Those words were not poetry to her. They were power. They were reality. She wrote them trembling, sometimes weeping, knowing that humanity was being handed a key capable of unlocking miracles, healing, forgiveness, and conversion on a scale the world had never seen. And now, here you are, living in this century, in your home, surrounded by distractions Faustina never had to face. Notifications, noise, deadlines, emotional exhaustion, fear of the future. Yet the same mercy flows toward you with the same intensity. Faustina, with her gentle firmness, would take your hand and lead you to understand that the moment the clock strikes 3, you are stepping onto sacred ground, a ground soaked in Christ's blood, a ground that trembles with mercy, a ground where heaven bends low enough for even the most wounded soul to reach it. Perhaps you have felt unworthy of such encounters. Perhaps you have looked at your past mistakes, your hidden struggles, your weariness, and thought, "Why would God want anything from me?" Faustina asked the same question many times. She felt her own weaknesses, her own discouragements, her own doubts. She wrote about spiritual dryness, loneliness, and even feeling misunderstood by those around her. Yet it was precisely because she was so human that Christ chose her. He told her, "The greater the sinner, the greater the right he has to my mercy." Those words shatter the lie that God wants perfection before participation. In truth, it is your wounds, your failures, your fears that draw Jesus to you with greater tenderness. The divine mercy is not for the flawless. It is for the desperate, the broken, the hopeful, the searching, the ordinary souls longing for peace in a world that offers none. That is why he chose 3 p.m., not as a reminder of suffering, but as the moment when love overpowered death itself. This is the hour when the veil between heaven and earth thins, when his heart opens wide, when grace pours out not as a trickle but as a flood. Picture this, it is nearing 3 p.m. The house is still or maybe noisy or disorganized or full of the everyday movements of life, but somewhere within it, God waits for you to turn toward him. Faustina would tell you that you do not need candles or altars or perfect silence. You need only a willing heart. She would remind you that the hour of mercy is not about long prayers, but about turning your gaze, even for 1 minute, toward the cross and saying, "Jesus, I trust in you." Those 5 words contain more power than you realize. They are a surrender. They are a declaration. They are a bridge between your weakness and His strength. Faustina believed that trust is the vessel that carries grace into the soul. And at 3 p.m., trust becomes a fire that lights the way for mercy to transform your home, your day, your worries, your relationships, your future. As you imagine the clock ticking closer to that sacred hour, Faustina whispers the truth she learned in prayer again and again, that Christ wants you at this hour not to punish you, not to judge you, but to heal you. He wants to gather your broken pieces, the ones you hide from others, the ones you hide even from yourself. He wants you to lay before Him the things you cannot fix, cannot change, cannot understand. And Faustina would tell you that at this hour, no request is too small, no wound too deep, no sin too heavy, no fear too overwhelming. Christ's mercy is infinite, not poetic, not symbolic, but infinite in the literal, unmeasurable sense of the word. You are standing at the edge of an ocean without bottom or boundaries. And so, as the sun moves toward mid-afternoon and the sacred hour approaches, Faustina would guide you gently to prepare, not with rituals, but with openness. She would tell you to quiet your heart, even if just internally, even if the world around you stays loud. She would remind you that what happens at 3 p.m. can alter the trajectory of your spiritual life. She would tell you that this is not just another moment in your day. This is the moment when Christ is closest, when His mercy reaches deepest, when His wounds speak most loudly of love. And she would look at you with the compassionate sternness of a saint and ask, "Will you meet Him? Because heaven is waiting." And the clock is almost at 3, and then the hour arrives. 3 p.m. The world outside continues as if nothing cosmic is happening. Cars pass by, birds move across the sky, ordinary conversations fill the air. But you know, deep inside, that everything has changed. Saint Faustina's presence seems to linger in the room with you, not physically but spiritually, as though the same grace that flooded her convent cell now pours invisibly into your home. This is the hour of great mercy, not the hour of fear, not the hour of judgment, but the hour when the heart of Christ opened on the cross and the world was washed clean with blood and water. Faustina would tell you gently to pause, to breathe, to acknowledge the sacredness that now surrounds you. And she would remind you that even if your mind feels scattered or your heart feels heavy, Christ welcomes you exactly as you are in this moment. There is no need to pretend, no need to craft perfect words, no need to feel holy. Mercy comes not to the worthy, but to the willing. You close your eyes, or maybe you keep them open, gazing at an image of the Divine Mercy if you have one, or simply imagining the red and pale rays flowing from Christ's heart, reaching toward you, wrapping around you like soft light. Faustina often described these rays as living, moving, searching for souls who need healing. And today, one of those souls is you. You speak the prayer Jesus gave her, "O blood and water," which gushed forth from the heart of Jesus as a fountain of mercy for us. I trust in you. You speak it once, twice, maybe more, and each time you say it, something loosens inside you. Not because the words are magic, but because they open the door of trust, and trust opens the floodgates of grace. In that moment, something begins to shift. You feel it. Not necessarily as emotion, but as truth settling into your soul. The truth that you are not forgotten, you are not abandoned, you are not beyond mercy. No one is. Faustina knew that at 3 p.m., heaven bends low, not in judgment, but in longing. Christ longs for souls in this hour, not the righteous only, but the broken, the lost, the tired, the ashamed. In her diary, Jesus pleaded with her to tell the world, "Let no soul fear to draw near to me, even though its sins be as scarlet." If you could see Christ's heart the way she saw it in visions, burning like a sun of compassion exploding with love, You would never doubt whether he wants to hear you at this hour. And so, Faustina invites you now to bring him everything. Not politely, not cautiously, but completely. Lay before him the people you worry about. Lay before him the wounds you hide. Lay before him the habits you cannot break. Lay before him the past that haunts you. Lay before him the future that scares you. Faustina would remind you that mercy thrives precisely where human strength fails. And at 3 p.m., failure becomes fertile ground for miracles. Perhaps tears begin to form, or maybe not. Maybe you feel peace, or maybe nothing at all. That doesn't matter. Faustina learned, sometimes painfully, that grace does its deepest work beneath the surface, in places the senses cannot reach. She endured spiritual dryness, dark nights, misunderstandings from others, yet she knew, absolutely knew, that Christ's mercy was working in her soul, even when she felt nothing. She would tell you now, do not measure this hour by feelings, measure it by faith, because faith is the door, mercy is the gift, healing is the fruit, and Christ is the giver, always. The rays from his heart extend now over your home, over your family, over the people you love and the ones who hurt you, over the memories that still sting, over the dreams still unfulfilled, over the loneliness you never speak of, over the guilt you carry, over the questions you cannot answer. Faustina would remind you that at 3 p.m., those rays do not stop at your walls. They stretch across oceans, across nations, across time, across every heart in need. When you pray during the hour of mercy, you are not praying alone. You are joining a river of souls across the world, and Faustina herself stands spiritually beside you, interceding with you, repeating the words she prayed thousands of times, Jesus, I trust in you. Trust is the lifeline that connects your soul to the mercy flowing from his heart, and in this hour, even the smallest act of trust becomes a magnet for grace. Christ told Faustina that at this hour, he desires your reflection on his passion, not in a distant or dramatic way, but in the recognition that his suffering was personal, intimate, intentional, for you. When you imagine him on the cross, when you remember his words, his wounds, his silence, his surrender, your heart aligns with the deepest mystery of love the world has ever known. Faustina understood that this meditation is not meant to make you feel sorrow only, but to awaken gratitude, confidence, and awe. He did not suffer to condemn you. He suffered to save you. And at 3 p.m., that salvation becomes active, living, present, poured out again through mercy. And then something else happens, something Faustina spoke of often but few understand. When the soul turns toward mercy at 3 p.m., grace not only enters, it spreads. Mercy received becomes mercy offered. And this is what Christ desires most, that you not only ask, but also give. Faustina would gently guide you to extend forgiveness to someone who wronged you, even if only in your heart. She would invite you to pray for a suffering soul, to intercede for someone lost, to offer your pain for those who feel hopeless. Because mercy multiplies when shared, it grows when given, it deepens when offered freely. Faustina saw in visions that even the smallest act of mercy, spoken or silent, can redirect a soul from despair to salvation. And at 3 p.m., acts of mercy carry unimaginable power. As the minutes pass and the sacred hour continues, the atmosphere of your home begins to feel different, lighter, calmer, clearer. Not because problems disappear, but because mercy changes the lens through which you see them. Christ never promised to remove every earthly burden, but he promised strength to bear them, grace to transform them, and peace to endure them. Faustina lived through illness, exhaustion, misunderstanding, and spiritual trials, yet she radiated joy because she lived immersed in mercy. That same mercy is now touching you, and whether you feel it or not, something in you is rising, just as Christ rose from the dead, just as Faustina rose from discouragement, just as countless souls have risen from despair into hope through the hour of mercy. And then, as the clock moves beyond 3 p.m., Faustina would speak one final truth into your heart. that the hour of mercy is not meant to end when the minute hand moves. It is meant to continue in the way you live, speak, forgive, trust, and love. She would tell you that every time you choose patience instead of anger, kindness instead of judgment, compassion instead of indifference, you extend the mercy of 3 p.m. into every corner of your life. She would remind you that the Divine Mercy image is not merely a picture, but a promise. Jesus, I trust in you, a declaration that reshapes the soul over time. And she would assure you that every Divine Mercy Sunday, every hour of mercy, every act of trust plants seeds of grace that will one day bloom into eternity. As the day draws on, you realize something has changed. Not the world outside, but the world within. The weight you carried feels lighter. The fears that shadowed you feel less threatening. The wounds you hid feel less lonely. Something within you has opened. A door, a window, a place where mercy has entered and begun its quiet, transformative work. And Faustina smiles. Not because the journey is complete, but because it has begun. She knew the power of this hour, the beauty of this feast, the magnitude of Christ's promise. And now you know it too. You have touched the heart of Divine Mercy, and Divine Mercy has touched you. And nothing, not even the deepest darkness, will ever be able to erase what grace has planted in your soul today. The hour of mercy was approaching, and Sister Faustina felt it like a rising light beneath the quiet surface of her soul, as if every breath inside her chest whispered, "The King is coming, prepare the way." The convent felt strangely alive that day, as though the walls themselves waited in reverence for the clock to strike 3. Outside, the world remained unaware, horses moving down the paths, villagers speaking casually, clouds passing like slow thoughts across the sky. Yet, in the hidden folds of heaven, something eternal was about to open. Faustina could sense it. She walked down the corridor, her rosary brushing lightly against her habit, each bead carrying the weight of souls who did not even know they needed rescue. Every step echoed like a soft drum of destiny. She felt the presence of Jesus, not outside her, but beside her, like a friend walking with her, invisible yet overwhelming, so near that she could almost feel his garment brushing her hand. Her heart trembled not with fear but with a holy anticipation, a trembling sweetness that made her feel both fragile and protected. She knew that at 3 p.m., the flood of mercy would descend not only on her convent, not only on her little chapel, but across the entire world, reaching hospitals, prisons, streets, lonely rooms, broken families, and souls standing on the edge of despair. And so, as she stepped into the chapel, the candles flickered as if they recognized her arrival, as if they knew she was the one entrusted with the message that could change the world for generations to come. The chapel air felt heavy with grace. Its silence was not emptiness but fullness. Faustina knelt, and the wood beneath her seemed to soften under her knees, as though creation itself wanted to carry her offering. Her lips stayed still, but her soul began to speak. She felt the Divine Mercy image watching her tenderly. Christ standing with his right hand raised in blessing, with rays of red and white pouring from his heart like rivers that never stop flowing. She looked at those rays, and the longer she stared, the more she felt drawn into them, as though they were not painted strokes, but living currents of light that carried forgiveness, healing, and rebirth. Suddenly, a soft fragrance filled the chapel. Not flowers, not incense, but something unearthly, like the scent of innocence itself. Faustina knew what it meant. Jesus was near. She lowered her head, not out of fear but out of reverence for the one whose mercy keeps the world alive even when it forgets him. And as her heart opened like a door waiting for its master, she heard him speak, not with sound but with certainty deep inside her soul. "My daughter, at 3 o'clock implore my mercy, especially for poor sinners, for at that hour mercy triumphed over justice." His words wrapped around her like a warm mantle, and she felt the weight of the world's souls pressing gently on her shoulders, not crushing her, but trusting her. She understood once again that this hour was not a ritual, it was a meeting point between heaven and earth, a doorway of light through which anyone at all, could walk into the heart of God if they simply whispered, "Jesus, have mercy on me." She raised her eyes to the crucifix, and for a moment the chapel faded, replaced by the hill of Calvary. She saw the sky darken. She heard the wind cry like a grieving mother. She saw the blood falling from the cross like drops of eternal life. And she felt the meaning of mercy in every beat of her heart. She understood that mercy was not a gentle sentiment. Mercy was a sacrifice, a battle, a victory. Mercy was the moment Jesus looked at humanity, bruised and sinful and ungrateful, and still said, "Father, forgive them." That forgiveness did not come cheaply. It came from a heart that broke open so completely that no sin, no darkness, no despair could ever close it again. As she watched the vision, tears rolled down her cheeks, not in sadness but in awe, because she realized anew that the Divine Mercy Hour is the moment heaven removes every barrier, every wall, every distance. It is the moment when even the most hopeless soul can be lifted like a lost child into the Father's arms. Then the vision dissolved, and the chapel returned. The clock above the doorway chimed. One slow bell, then another. 3 o'clock. The hour of mercy had begun. Faustina pressed her hand to her heart, feeling its tremor, and whispered the words Jesus taught her. O blood and water which gushed forth from the heart of Jesus as a fountain of mercy for us, I trust in you. As she prayed, she felt waves of spiritual energy pouring from the sacred heart of Christ, flowing through the chapel walls, passing through villages, reaching distant lands, touching souls she would never meet on earth. She felt mercy reaching into hospital rooms where someone fought for their last breath, into prisons where someone regretted their entire life, into bedrooms where someone cried from loneliness, into streets where someone hid their pain behind forced smiles, into churches where sinners knelt with trembling hope. She understood that every 3 p.m. of every day was a crack in the hours, an opening in time where God pulled back the veil and allowed his love to rush freely upon the world. She understood that any person, anywhere, at that moment, could whisper just one prayer and be wrapped in grace strong enough to change the entire trajectory of their life. At that moment, Faustina felt a strange, enveloping silence. The world outside seemed to pause. No footsteps echoed. No birds sang. It was as if creation stood still, waiting for the mercy to complete its descent. Then Jesus spoke again, his voice like soft thunder inside her soul. If they understood the power of this hour, the earth would transform overnight. A shiver ran through her. She knelt lower, completely surrendered, completely small before the greatness of divine love. And then came a moment so beautiful, so tender, that Faustina knew she would carry it not only through her earthly life, but into eternity. Jesus placed his hand upon her soul, not on her shoulder, not on her head, but on her soul. It felt like sunlight entering water, like music entering silence, like forgiveness entering pain. She held her breath. She did not want the moment to end. She wanted the whole world to feel what she felt, that love is real, that mercy is alive, that God is not distant, that heaven is not silent. And so she whispered the only prayer her trembling heart could form, "Use me, Lord, use me for souls." When the vision faded, Faustina opened her eyes slowly, like someone returning from a great distance. She noticed the chapel looked the same, yet felt completely different, filled with a quiet glow, as though mercy had soaked into every brick, every pew, every candle flame. It was as if the room itself was breathing with the breath of God. She stayed kneeling for a long moment, her hands pressed to her chest, trying to hold onto the warmth she felt within. But then something remarkable happened. The warmth did not fade. Instead, it grew, spreading through her arms, her mind, her very bones. It was a warmth that told her she had been chosen, not because she was strong or perfect, but because God delights in using the small, the hidden, the humble. She knew then that the message of the divine mercy would not remain within this chapel. It would not remain in Poland. It would not remain in her diary. It would travel to nations she would never see, languages she would never speak, generations not yet born. She understood, with a clarity sharper than anything she had ever known, that the hour of mercy was not a devotion. It was a rescue mission, a mission given not just to her but to the entire world. As she rose from her knees, the air seemed to shimmer, like unseen wings moving around her. She walked back toward the main aisle, her steps slow, her heart overflowing. She carried no fear, no confusion, only a deep aching desire for all souls to know the love she had just experienced. She thought of families torn apart. She thought of souls consumed by guilt. She thought of young people wandering without direction, old people forgotten, sinners who believed they were beyond forgiveness. And she whispered into the quiet space, "Jesus, I am ready. If you open a door, I will walk through it." She reached the entrance of the chapel and paused, her hand resting on the wooden frame. She felt Jesus near her again, as though walking beside her in the hallway. Then she heard his voice gently say, "Tell them, my child, that my mercy is greater than all their sins combined. Tell them I wait for them at 3 o'clock. Tell them I thirst for their hearts." Faustina closed her eyes, letting those words burn into her memory, knowing they were not only for her, but for the world. The sun broke through the window and spilled across her face like a gentle blessing. She felt its warmth, but it was nothing compared to the warmth inside her soul. She made her way to her small room and sat at her table, pulling her diary close. The pages stretched before her like an empty field waiting for seeds. Her hand trembled slightly as she picked up her pen. Then she whispered, "Jesus, I write for you." And the pen began to move. The words poured out, not from her mind but from her spirit, flowing like a river of light across the pages. Each sentence carried a flame. Each message carried a destiny beyond her own life. She knew these writings were not meant to be kept hidden. They were meant to change souls. They were meant to bring sinners back to the Father. They were meant to prepare the world for the final battle between light and darkness. She felt the weight of that mission, but she welcomed it. Because she knew she was not alone. Mercy himself was with her. Hours passed, but time felt suspended, as though heaven held the clock still while she wrote. When she finally placed the pen down, she felt an overwhelming sense of peace. She gazed out the window, watching the sky shift from blue to gold, gold to amber, amber to soft evening pink. And she realized something profound. Divine mercy is not a moment. It is a movement that enters homes, hearts, nations, and generations. A movement stronger than despair, deeper than sin, wider than sorrow. A movement that whispers into every lonely, broken, doubting heart, "Come back, I still love you." She pressed her hands together and prayed for every soul who would one day read her words, every soul who would whisper, "Jesus, I trust in you." Every soul who would turn toward the rays of mercy even in their darkest hour. And now, as the world continues its restless march through time, the message she carried still echoes. The hour of mercy still comes every day at 3. The rays still flow from the heart of Christ, seeking souls ready to return home. The chapel may be silent now, the diary may rest on its shelf, but the mission continues through every person who hears the call. Through you, through your prayers, through your trust. So remember this, when the clock reaches 3, heaven bends toward the earth. Every wound becomes open to healing, every sin becomes open to forgiveness, every soul becomes reachable. At 3 p.m., you are not alone, you are not forgotten, you are not beyond hope. Because at that hour, the heart that was pierced for you opens again, and the mercy that saved the world begins to fall, drop by drop, ray by ray, miracle by miracle, into every soul willing to whisper, "Jesus, I trust in you." These are not just words, they are a doorway. Walk through them, and you will never be the same.